What is going on, college basketball fans? Today I got for you guys my second chance bracket, and man, do I need this second chance. My bracket is busted, destroyed, not looking good. I still have my national championship pick in there. That's about the only thing I have going for me, so I really need to do better on this second chance. I'm ready to get started. I just want to say subscribe if you guys are new. Hit that like button if you guys enjoy it. And real quick, and I'm not going to lie to you, I would have a hard time picking someone other than Alabama to come out of the South into the Final Four at this point. I do think that if Creighton can knock off Princeton, they could give Alabama a little bit of a run for their money. But Alabama, they're just looking really good right now with their depth, their guard play. Even their bigs are playing really aggressive and playing up to the tournament, which I was not sure what was going to happen. But I really like what I'm seeing from Bediako, from Noah Clowney. These Alabama bigs have come to play. I do think San Diego State could also give them a little bit of a run for their money. I'm not sure if they can win this game, though. San Diego State, a very good defensive team, and we saw that against in their first two games against Charleston and against Furman. They played really good defense, and if they can hit their shots, if they are hitting three-pointers, they can maybe keep up scoring with Alabama. I just don't know if they can quite keep up with them scoring enough to eventually win this game. I think more times than not, Alabama wins that matchup, so I am going to have the Crimson Tide roll on to the Elite Eight. Next up, we do have Creighton versus Princeton. This is a fun matchup. I mean, let's not count out Princeton in this game. Although we have only seen one 15 seed ever make it to the Elite Eight, and that was St. Peter's last season, it could happen again. I mean, Princeton, we see what these mid-major, small New Jersey schools can do in the tourney, and St. Peter's last year, I don't think anyone gave them much chance in the Sweet 16 over Purdue. That Purdue team last year was stacked, and they got it done and became the first 15 seed to ever make it to the Elite Eight. Now, here's the thing, though. I'm not sure how well Princeton will match up because Princeton has been scoring a lot through the post. Ryan Cockburner is going to play a big role in this game. With him down there protecting the paint, Princeton is going to have to make a lot of threes, and they have shown to be able to do that. I just don't trust them enough in this game. I am going to go with Creighton to make it on to the Elite Eight right here. I think Princeton could win this game. They're going to have to find some unique ways to score over Cockburner. They're going to have to make a lot of middies. They're going to have to make a lot of three-pointers. I just feel more comfortable going with Creighton here, especially because offensively they have been playing really good, especially against Baylor in this tourney. So I am going to go with Creighton here to move on and face Alabama. This is actually would be Creighton's first ever Elite Eight in program history. So let's see if they can do it. Let's go ahead and go region by region here, finish out the South. So we do have to make it to the Final Four, Alabama versus Creighton. Now this Alabama team is so big, tall, strong, and Creighton, I feel like, could match up with them well. The only thing about Creighton is they don't have very good depth, and Alabama has really good depth, especially at the guard position, and I got to go with Alabama. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's hard to not pick Alabama to at least go to the Final Four here. They're looking pretty strong. I think it would take an upset. This would be an upset 100% if Creighton were able to pull it off. I think that they can. I think that I just trust Alabama to be able to drive on them, and even with Ryan Cockburner down low, I feel like Alabama's going to be able to get some scoring, especially from guys who are really athletic like Brandon Miller, Quinterly, who's really shifty, can drive, really acrobatic with his drives. He can adjust mid-air. I think they have the guys that can score on rim protectors, even in the lane. So I am going to go with Alabama here to make it to the Final Four. Next up, we do have our Midwest region here, and our first matchup is between Houston and Miami. Both teams were in the Elite Eight last year. Both teams lost in the Elite Eight last year. One of them is going to get their back-to-back years. So, Houston, They've had some injury problems there with Jamal Shed, Marcus Sasser, but they have been playing. And, they've been a little bit scary here in this tournament. I mean, they were in a close one with Northern Kentucky in the first round. They were close with Auburn throughout until they pulled away in the second half. Auburn just played terrible, and I credit Houston's defense a lot for that as well. And that's the thing. I think I trust Houston's defense in this one. Houston is my national champion pick in my original bracket. They are still in. So I got to stick with them here for a little bit, even though Miami has been playing really well. I think the difference in this game could be a guy like Jarris Walker, who I think could dominate his matchup with Norchad Omier in this game. And they're going to need their really good defensive guards, like Marcus Sasser, like Jamal Shed, to be able to slow down these guys like Nigel Pack and Isaiah Wong. And I think that they are going to be able to do it. Houston advances to the Elite Eight. Next up, I do have Xavier going up against Texas in our 3-2 matchup. And this is actually a really good game. I do think that Xavier, although they played really good against Pitt, that is the best I've seen Xavier play in a while, was that game against Pitt. I just don't know if they have enough against Texas. I mean, guys like Dylan DeSue have been turning up, and the thing is, Sully Boom, I feel like hasn't been playing super good. I mean, he kind of turned up a little bit against Pitt, but he hasn't been playing that great in the tourney. And also on Texas' side, Tyrese Hunter really hasn't been playing good. So I think the winner of this matchup will be determined by which of those star guards can turn up and play good in this game. I am going to go with Texas in this game. I do think the bigs on Texas can play great. Like Dylan DeSue, he's been Texas's best player throughout this tournament. I mean, he has been playing great ever since the Big 12 tourney started. Dylan DeSue has been the guy down low. They also have guys like Timmy Allen, Christian Bishop. I think Texas moves on here to the Elite Eight. So that sets up a really good matchup between Houston and Texas. Winner moves on to the Final Four, which is in Houston, Texas. I did have this Elite Eight matchup in my original bracket, and I think it is going to happen. So Houston versus Texas, and I am going to go ahead and ride with Houston. I feel like I don't know if I trust Tyrese Hunter. He hasn't been playing that great really ever since Big 12 conference play started this season. He's not really played up to what we thought he was going to be. Marcus Carr, however, is a super good player. Like I said, Dylan DeSue has been Texas's best player. If it hasn't been Dylan DeSue, it has been Serge Jabari Rice. Serge Jabari Rice, 6th man of the year in college basketball. I think he is going to have to play out of his mind to beat Houston, but Houston, really good, disciplined defense, I think gets it done and gets them a trip to Houston, back home for the Final Four. So, our next region is the East region, and this is by far, to me, the hardest region to pick here in the second chance bracket. I mean, all 4 of these teams could make the Final Four, and I could see it for sure. I could 100% see all 4 of these teams making it to the Final Four, but let's go ahead and get into our first matchup here between Florida Atlantic and Tennessee. And I want to talk about Tennessee a little bit because Tennessee has surprised me throughout this tourney so far. That game against Duke, masterclass, man. Like, they played amazing. That was one of the best games I've seen from this Tennessee team. And without Zakai Ziegler to be able to do that against a very hot Duke team, very, very impressive. And Tennessee, we'll see, like, can they continue to play like that? Because it seems like throughout the regular season, they've been very inconsistent with their play. You know, they can go ahead and beat a team like Alabama in the regular season and then go on to lose to Vandy or Missouri or whoever it is, you know. So I worry about that. Like, can Tennessee continue to play that great like they did against Duke? On Florida Atlantic side, They beat Memphis on a buzzer beater, buzzer beater layup. Amazing game. One of my favorite games in the tourney so far. They beat FDU, pulled away in the end. And I could see this Florida Atlantic team beating Tennessee. The only thing is, Florida Atlantic, they like to get their points down low and at the three-point line. They don't shoot a lot of mid-range shots. And Tennessee, they have one of the best front court defenses in college basketball. So that worries me a little bit here with Florida Atlantic. If they are going to win this game, they have to come right out the gate hitting their threes, making shots, and continue to do that throughout the game, and also be able to play good defense. I am going to say FAU can do that. I'm going to say they come out, they hit their threes, and it's tough to pick against Tennessee with how good they looked against Duke, because I will admit they looked really good against Duke. But Florida Atlantic, they have that Cinderella type feel, and I'm kind of feeling like they get to the next round against Tennessee. Tennessee comes out in this one inconsistent, doesn't play up to their best, and Florida Atlantic scrapes by in a close one by hitting a lot of three balls. Give me Florida Atlantic to move on to the Elite Eight. Next up, I do have Kansas State going up against Michigan State, and really good game. This one, I'm very torn between who I want to pick. I kind of like Kansas State in this game. I think Marquise Noel, he put on a show against Kentucky, and I think he could do it again against Michigan State. The only thing I worry about is really good defensive guards like Tyson Walker, A.J. Hoggard, going to be able to slow him down. But I'm going to trust Kansas State here in this game. I'm going to trust Kansas State to move on to the Elite Eight. I think Marquise Noel, you think about it, he had Kason Wallace on him last game. Much taller, lengthier guy than him guarding him. He was still able to put on a show. He's going to be able to make deep threes at the right moments, keep the momentum on Kansas State's side. Keontae Johnson really didn't even play all that well against Kentucky, even though he did hit the dagger three. And I think guys like Ishmael Massoud, he's going to be able to hit some shots. Cam Carter, able to hit some shots. Kansas State has a lot of guys who are going to be able to hit their threes. And honestly, Naquan Tomlin impressed me with the job he was able to do on Oscar Tshiebwe and against Kentucky last game. So I think that he's actually going to be okay against guys like Joey Hauser. Yes, Joey Hauser is going to get his in this game, but Naquan Tomlin, I think he's going to be, all right defensively. I think he can, play pretty decent. So I'm going to take Kansas State here to move on to the Elite Eight. And that sets up an awesome matchup between Florida Atlantic and Kansas State in the Elite Eight. The winner will make it to the Final Four. This is Florida Atlantic's first Elite Eight ever, because it is their first Sweet 16 ever. And can they make it to their first Final Four ever? I could maybe see it. But I am going to go with Kansas State here in this matchup. I think it would be a really fun game. I think Florida Atlantic's not going to go away. I think it's going to be a close game throughout. But I trust Kansas State here in this one. If they can get here to knock off Florida Atlantic and advance to the Sweet 16, Marquise Noel, been so fun to watch throughout this tourney. I think he puts on a show in these next two matchups and helps his team to the Final Four. And Marquise Noel, Keontae Johnson, like I said, Cam Carter, Ishmael Massoud, Naquan Tomlin, Sills on this team. We have so many good players on this team, and I think they're going to overcome and make it past Michigan State and FAU and make it to the Final Four. Last region, we do have our West region, and we do have Arkansas, who just knocked off the number 1 seed Kansas versus our 4 seed UConn, and a fun matchup. I do think the first thing that comes to mind when I look at this matchup is UConn has a lot of size on this Arkansas team, and I think it's going to be tough for Arkansas to be able to stop Sanogo Donovan Clingan. But we have seen, Eric Musselman has found his way into the Elite Eight the past couple of years, and can he make it to another one? I think this would be his third straight Elite Eight if he can get past UConn. I am going to say UConn does win this game. Devo Davis had an outstanding game against Kansas. He's going to need another one here in this one, and defensively as well. I mean, I think it's going to take a really big effort from him. The Mitchell brothers defensively on Sanogo and Clingan. It's going to be very tough on those matchups. I think Jordan Hawkins, though. I think Jordan Hawkins can have himself a day in this one and light it up behind the arc, and I think that is the difference. I think that's the difference. UConn moves on in this one. They have really good passers, guys like Tristan Newton, Andre Jackson Jr., a lot of size, a lot of athleticism. It's going to be too much for Arkansas, in my opinion. Give me UConn to move on to the Elite Eight. Next up, we do have Gonzaga versus UCLA rematch from 2021 Final Four game, where Suggs hit that half-court buzzer beater to move on to the championship game, and at the time being kept Gonzaga's undefeated season alive. Fantastic game, and we had guys that played in that game in this matchup. Drew Timme on one side, Tiger Campbell on the other side. The super fun game. I am gonna go with Gonzaga to move on past UCLA. UCLA's been playing really well, but Gonzaga also has, and in the second half of that TCU game yesterday, Gonzaga started to hit their three balls, and they looked really good. And when you have Drew Timme's playing really well, Gonzaga was hitting their three balls, their guards, Strother, Hickman, Malachi Smith. You have these guys able to hit their shots. I think Antoine Watson can be huge for Gonzaga in this game as well. It's a lot of size for this UCLA team. And again, I'm going to go with Gonzaga here to move on to the Elite Eight. So we have one more spot in our Final Four, and it's going to be either UConn or Gonzaga. And I like UConn. I'm just going to go ahead and say I like UConn in this matchup. I think I like the size between Sanogo and Clingan. Once again, being able to have that size guarding Drew Timme is going to be huge. And guys that can pass the ball, play great defense. Like, I just love how this team is set up with Tristan Newton and Andre Jackson Jr. being really good playmakers. Tristan Newton can hit his shots. Jordan Hawkins is a super good shooter for this Husky team. And they have depth. They have a lot of depth. One of the deepest teams in the country. And I really like this UConn team. I'm going to have them move on here to the Final Four. So that sets up our Final Four here. We do have Alabama, Kansas State, Houston, and UConn. And as you guys know, my champion pick from my original bracket is Houston. And I'm honestly not sure if I want to stick to that or not yet. But we do have our first Final Four matchup between Alabama and Kansas State. And can Marquise Noel keep putting on shows? Can Keontae Johnson step up here? Because they are going to need Keontae Johnson to be able to defend Brandon Miller really well. But I do think the size of Alabama here gets past Naquan Tomlin. I think Noah Clowney, Bediako, that's going to be a mismatch for Kansas State. And then you factor in that Alabama has a lot of really good guards that they are going to be able to try to slow down Marquise Noel, but also be able to answer him. Guys like Mark Sears, like Jaden Bradley, like Quinterly, experienced guy in Quinterly. I like Alabama in this matchup a lot, and I'm going to have them move on to the championship game. Then we do have Houston going up against UConn. And like I said, Houston was my original national championship pick, and I kind of want to stick with them, but at the same time, I'm liking what I'm seeing from UConn, and I think I'm going to have UConn move on. I mean, either way, whether it's Houston or UConn moving on to the championship game, both would be a rematch from earlier in the year. Alabama did beat Houston in Houston earlier this year. UConn beat Alabama in a early season tourney this season. So either way, it's a rematch. I'm going to have UConn defeat Houston, though, and move on to the national championship game. I mean, I really like the way that UConn's been playing. I think they have the dudes on this team to compete with Houston's physicality and their defense and be able to score on that defense. And not a lot of teams have that to be able to compete with Houston. So I am going to have UConn move on to the championship game. Then we have Alabama versus UConn in the championship. Like I said, a rematch. UConn did win this game by quite a bit earlier in the year. And I think UConn wins this game again. Alabama, really solid team, and in that first matchup, Brandon Miller didn't really play that much, and he has emerged as the best freshman in the country, one of the best players in the country. So I do think this game will be a lot closer than the first matchup, like a lot closer. I could see this one going down to the wire, but I really like how this, like I keep saying, I really like how this UConn team is set up with their shooting, with their passing, with their depth, with their size. They have everything it takes to win a national championship. And the only thing that worries me about picking UConn to win the Natty is, do they have the coach to be able to get it done? I'm not sure that Dan Hurley is the guy, but he has the he has a championship level roster, so we will see. I do think that coaching is important, but I think Dan Hurley can be just good enough to have as good of a team as he does to be able to get this done. So I'm going to have UConn be my national champions on my second chance bracket. It was really tough to not pick Houston, but I really like the way that UConn has been playing. I really like their squad, and I'm going to have them do it. I'm going to have them do it from the 4 seed, win the Natty, and that's going to do it for this one, guys. Let me know what you guys think about my second chance bracket. Let me know who you guys have winning it all at this point in this before the Sweet 16 starts down below in the comment section. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.